Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so we'll get started right now as people slowly bring their way here. Sorry, I am still a little bit sick, but I'm almost done. I think I'm almost done. I feel pretty good. Still a little bit of cough lingering, so I apologize in advance for that. So, A Course in Miracles. For anybody that is new, watching from the world or on our Zoom call with us here today, Course in Miracles is this book. My cover kind of fell off, but here you go. Course in Miracles is a self-study spiritual text really designed to help us shift our perception from fear to love. So that's what the Course actually calls a miracle. It's not some grand, tangible thing that has to happen every time, not Mother Teresa-esque type of miracles, but miracles is just a shift in your mind from fear to love. We went through lesson 5, which was I am not upset for the reason that I think. So that was a really, I really love that the Course starts over there in, so early in the lessons. There's 365 lessons, a lesson a day. So we're on lesson 8 today. And yeah, we'd love to just read that to start. So lesson 8 is, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. This idea, of course, is the reason why you see only the past. No one really sees anything. He sees only his thoughts projected outward. The mind's preoccupation with the past is the cause of misconception about time from which your seeing suffers. Your mind cannot grasp the present, which is the only time there is. It therefore cannot understand time and cannot, in fact, understand anything. The one wholly true thought one can hold about the past is that it is not here. To think about it at all is there to think about illusions. Very few have realized what is actually entailed in picturing the past or in anticipating the future. The mind is actually blank when it does this, because it is not really thinking about anything. The purpose of the exercise today is to begin to train your mind to recognize when it is not really thinking at all. While thoughtless ideas preoccupy our mind, the truth is blocked. Recognizing that your mind has been merely blank rather than believing that it is filled with ideas is the first step to opening the way to vision. The exercise for today should be done with eyes closed. This is because you actually cannot see anything, and it is easier to recognize that no matter how vividly you may picture a thought, you're not seeing anything. With as little investment as possible, search your mind for the usual minute or so, merely noting that thoughts you find there. Name each by the central figure or theme it contains, and pass on to the next. Introduce this practice period by saying, I seem to be thinking about. Then name each of your thoughts specifically. For example, I seem to be thinking about the name of a person, about a name of an object, or a name of an emotion, and so on, concluding at the end of the mind searching period with, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. This can be done 4 or 5 times throughout the day unless you find that it irritates you. If you find it trying, 3 or 4 times is sufficient. You might find it helpful, however, to include your irritation or any emotions that the idea for today may induce in the mind searching for itself. So I would like to actually just take a minute here for us all to just search our minds. We close our eyes and we search our minds and do exactly that. Whatever comes up, I seem to be thinking about blank. I seem to be thinking about this person. I seem to be thinking about this emotion, this object. And then when I say so, we can end it by saying, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. All right. So today's theme is my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So let's just take a minute here for us, just search our minds. I seem to be thinking about. Okay, you can start to begin wrapping that up, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So yeah, thank you guys for participating in my first of my 4 to 5 practice of the day for today's lesson, which is my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So we are on lesson 8. I do have a commitment this year to do 365 lessons in the 365 days. And so far, I'm doing it. All right. So where were we? We were talking about what is A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is this spiritual text that supports us and is designed to help us shift from the perception of fear to the perception of love. In any given moment, every moment you have a choice between seeing with fear or seeing with love. They do not occupy the same space. See, we're going over chapter 11 right now. And just know that even if you're not here on chapter 11, or you have no idea, you've never read the course before, every single section stands strong on its own, and they can stand sovereign on its own. So, in chapter 11, it's called God or the Ego. That means every moment, okay, the ego and God and spirit actually do not communicate at all because they are diametrically different in all of their teachings, diametrically opposed, right? So nothing is the same about the ego and God, so they don't even communicate. However, because the ego actually is an illusion, so God doesn't need to address something that is not there, right? And because they're so different, if you just think about every moment, you cannot be worried or sad or angry and grateful and kind and compassionate at the same time. Fear and love just do not occupy the same space because they require full allegiance, no partial allegiance. You can be worried right now and the next moment be grateful, but just not at the exact same time. So then the course is here to teach us, to train us, and to show us that the course is basically presenting a case to us. This is you with the ego. This is you with spirit. One is your natural inheritance, and this is what you feel, and deep inside there is a knowing of this truth. It is eternal. You can recognize it because it is you. Then there's the ego that wants things, that is always trying to accumulate, trying to keep things, and operates from scarcity and judges other people. They both show up for us as we're in this dance, right? As we're in this meat suit, in this body, in this 3D world. So for me recently, with all the things that I've been kind of going through, you guys have heard from last call, is feelings I've always said that feelings are paper thin because you experience them and you can shift it. You are actually in control of which teacher you're listening to, either the ego or spirit. And those two will give you the experience, which will, in turn, dictate your feelings, right? So I do think that we can't really trust our feelings. However, because we can't trust our feelings because our feelings are of this world, right? Because peace, when we have peace in heaven, none of all this stuff comes up, all this feelings, right? So for a long time, because of my studying of A Course in Miracles, and this might be the I don't want to say arrogance, but maybe lack of better word right now. The way that I've been studying the Course is I believe this is what I want and this is only what I'm going to do. And so I tend to invalidate anything else. In my mind, I'm like, nah, we can just think love, right? Forget this field, think love. On one level, that works. On the other, we're playing this game and we have feelings. So just to deny the feeling doesn't mean that it's not there. Just like to deny your truth does not mean that it's not there. Like all things, the Course reminds us. Because even the ego can read A Course in Miracles. Even though ego can be spiritual, right? Even the ego can say, I'm close to God, or whatever, and still produce judgment. So the Course says, while you're here, use everything as a learning device. That's all anything ever is in the world that we live in. It is a learning device. But what is it a learning device for? That becomes the question. What is it that we actually want? Because what we really want is peace, but yet we're willing to throw peace away so easily. So yeah, we are going into the section of section 2 of chapter 11, which is the invitation to healing, which is interesting, But I do want to say a couple things, a couple announcements. One, I think I'm ready this year to take A Course in Miracles and these calls to another level. I want to be more structured. I want to be able to reach more people and I want to empower. This year is all about empowering others, empowering myself. So I'm looking for people to help take this to another level. My vision right now is something along the lines of 1 or 2 co-hosts. So that's the first step. 2 is anybody that wants to support in creating a new YouTube channel around this, right? Create the theme, create the strategy, all the things for how do we get this out in the best possible way. And, whatever money is made from online will be split in that space. So, yeah, it's not. I'm not looking to monetize. I'm looking to be more organized and structured and get this out. Let's talk about bringing it to Egypt. So that's what I'm looking for. I posted in the chat yesterday. A lot of people have messaged me wanting to be a co-host and all that. However, we did get a question. See, I think how it's going to support is if we begin asking questions in the chat. Awesome. I actually know a couple people going to Egypt this year too, and they're also chartering something. All right, so I think it would support if we ask questions. As we're in the study, we're in the practice of A Course in Miracles, we can ask questions in the chat so that we can bring it up on these calls, right? So somebody asked in our chat, I feel too I have failed every time to experience empathy and compassion in the way of the self as explained in chapter 16, where I end up denying someone's experience because I want to deny the possibility of suffering. I get to ask for truly seeing myself/brothers heal so they can feel seen and not dismissed. Anyone have more on ACIM's true empathy? Yes. So, chapter 16, there is a section, it's called True Empathy in chapter 16. And it talks about, it guides us to form empathy that transcends the way that the ego has empathy, right? And how we relate to others, how we join with the Holy Spirit's vision of forgiveness, of healing, of love. So, true empathy in A Course in Miracles is not about joining into the suffering with someone or validating that the illusion is real, right? Because oftentimes we like to trauma bond. We like to get in with them and we like to verify and validate the suffering, which it's different than being compassionate, right? It's about recognizing the truth beyond what their suffering is, affirming that the divine and God plays a part in this situation right now too, that it's all perfect and divine. And we don't actually know what is going on besides that love exists right now. So we're looking for the love that exists in this moment. Hang on. So it's to see when somebody is going through pain and going through suffering, you can see a healed version of them. So in your mind, you're not playing the suffering that they're playing, right? So you see this healed God divine version. But that also doesn't mean on the surface, we have, this is back to that like heaven and earth conversation, right? On one level, we can know that we're not playing into the story, into the illusion. But on the other, we also have to be compassionate and meet our brothers and sisters where they're at. This is what I was talking about too, and it's great that she asked this question, is that sometimes I'll invalidate. It's almost like I don't take it seriously, and it comes off that way. There's no heart in what I'm doing because I removed the feelings from there. So the ego's empathy validates suffering, reinforces the belief that separation is real, and tries to create unity through the idea of separation, which creates confusion for us and actually creates the separation. The Holy Spirit, on the other hand, sees empathy as looking past the illusion of suffering to the truth that is our true inheritance. All right, so it's a little bit of a shift in perception about empathy, because people also, the way that you have empathy will also dictate the way that you experience the world and experience people. I know a lot of people that are like, I'm so empathetic and I just take on everyone's energies and then I get drained and all that. It's because that's the ego's way of looking at what's going on, right? If you shift your mind, you can be empathetic by remembering for somebody, by remembering their greatness, their light, their love for someone else. So that's our opening for the day. That was the question. If anybody else has questions, this is a good time to ask. Or if anything is on your heart, on your mind, anything you want to share. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's open it up with the Year of Miracles. I want to read a reflection one. Let's see. Now that I want it, it's not going to show up. All right, this will do. So this is on day 70 for reflections on recognizing our source. According to A Course in Miracles, what we have is an authorship problem. Not recognizing our divine source, we express ourselves as creations of the world rather than creations of spirit. The world has imprinted upon our psyche its brokenness and pain, and there is no point in trying to heal that pain unless we heal our misplaced sense of heritage. We are not children of the world. Excuse me. We are children of God. We don't have to allow the false input of a weary world to affect us as it does. Confusion about our divine heritage translates into confusion about ourselves. Not understanding who we are or where we come from, we find it hard to understand who we are now or where we are now. And so we lack spiritual stability. In this absence of the sense of divine creator, the mind assumes that we're on our creator, we own our creator, and thus own our God. If God isn't the big cheese, then I must be the big cheese. And that thought, that we're the greatest, is not merely narcissism, it's psychosis that permeates the human condition. In remembering the truth of where we came from, we become more open to the truth of who we are. So we actually talked about this on the last call too, is who is my Father? Who is my God? Right? Is it what I have created? How can what I created be my Father, be my God? So recognizing the order. See, the Course is always trying to correct cause and effect, correct the order of thought in our mind. And most of the times we just have it upside down, you know? So, yeah. What else? What is alive here in this moment? You can type it or you can write it. If you are online, you can also type it.
I really resonated with what you said about empathy and about not letting your ego create where you're like fully investing into someone where it's too much. Because I've been there, and I'm wondering, like, what would you say to really be able to reframe and be in the presence of someone without trying to fix their problems? Because I've been that fixer, and I've seen that that does not work, and it doesn't work like how I hope it does.
Amazing question, Connor. Thank you for asking. So when we see other people suffering, right? Like, yes, it should inspire love in us, right? Not inspire pity, but inspire love. There's a big distinction in that. You know, one is for me and one is for them. And, oh wait, did you fall off? Are you still here? How come I don't see you? Sorry. Oh no. Connor asked the question and disappeared.
I'm here.
Oh, that's weird. Sorry, I didn't see you on the screen. So, your question was, how do you work with people that you feel like are that you know, how to deal with it, like you're not trying to fix people, right?
More so like friends and family than like coworkers or anything like that.
Yeah. So this is really interesting because we all do this. We all see that something, especially if we know somebody long enough, we start to see that we start to nitpick things, right? We start to like have this character of who they are. Like, are we actually seeing them or are we seeing a picture of who they are in our mind? That's what we need to really recognize for ourselves first is, am I actually seeing this person? Who is this person? Right? And then you can just, from today's lesson, we pick things from the past. This person is, Alex is someone that teaches A Course in Miracles. Alex did this, Alex did that. And you create this character of who Alex is. And as time goes on, because the ego is always looking at the authority problem, right? Which means we have to elevate and we want to kind of lower other people too. It's just natural for the ego. Like we're looking for something wrong. Because if we find something wrong, then we can create the separation. We can lose sight of Christ consciousness or the divine in this person. So the practice is always, let me see conscious, let me see spirit, let me see Holy Spirit in this person. And the best place to practice is the people that trigger you. Let me be silent today. Let me choose to let me center myself. Let me find the quiet, calm place that I can say I'm not going to judge. And I can visualize this person, right? Let me see spirit that flows through this person. The sickness or the problems that needs to be fixed, that they're always this way, they're always complaining, or whatever it is that you see that you think is wrong with them, right? And you can the way to, for me in the past couple of days, like being with myself and feelings, just acknowledge that the pain and the suffering and whatever needs to be fixed seems to be there. Okay, seems. I acknowledge that this seems to be there. And then ask the Holy Spirit to show you their true self and your true self. We must connect, because everything is a learning device to connect to spirit, to God. Let me see with your eyes. Show me with your eyes. Let me look with my spiritual eyes, which is not coming from my physical eyes. And then you begin, and then spirit always, without fail, will always show you the perfection in this person. Untouched by fear, because spirit has no idea what that is. Right? Because it's an illusion that we see it, God holds the vision for us through the Holy Spirit. So there are practices you can do around this person. Is when that comes up and you feel like you need to share or fix something, you can literally put yourself into a place of prayer. I don't need to do anything right now. The Course says I need do nothing. Everything is playing out in my mind. I can just see this person, maybe like a visualization of seeing like a light in this person, and just see it continue to grow until it surrounds that person. And you're like, oh, okay, wait, there is nothing to fix. This is a reminder, this is a teaching moment for me to remember not to look with my judgmental, ego, physical eyes. Oops, I forgot that I'm doing it again. Right? And then just being really kind to ourselves. Release all of this to the Holy Spirit and to God. You don't have to carry it with you. So, hopefully that supports. Everything is love. The presence of love is there, right? So everything is love. And when you forget, then it's just a call to love. Okay. Go ahead. Who's that? I can only see the top of your head.
Okay, thank you. When I hear you say that, all of a sudden I feel like I'm levitating. It's like, that's bliss. But why do we come as humans with all these complex feelings and emotions and the ego, blah, 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 it's like, dang, I don't know. And then I'm having a hard time understanding the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't get it. I always grew up with just me, myself, and God. What the Holy Spirit is doing in here. I don't get it.
So, yeah. Thank you. So, it's not separate things, right? It's not like myself, and then there's God, and then there's Holy Spirit, and then there's Jesus. It's not really all separate things. Think about it like all connecting parts of one thing, right? Me and God, because I have fallen from heaven, and I have forgotten. I fall into a deep sleep. The Course says you fell into a deep sleep. And the Holy Spirit is like the voice of God, right? It's not like some separate entity or anything else. It's just the voice of God constantly being constantly reminding us to return back to love, to remember what it is that you want, to remember what you are. It's just the voice that speaks. So when we say we give it back over to the Holy Spirit and to God, is we're giving it back to the voice of truth. So if we think about the Holy Spirit as like, what is the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit remembers heaven, remembers God, and also knows that we are asleep right now. And we believe that our dreams and all of these things are real, and we've taken on all the illusions as real. So the Holy Spirit is simply this reminder, this voice. And we hear it sometimes. We hear it within ourselves that says, hey, maybe you shouldn't judge. Or it's just kind and compassionate to us. It's the lifeline that we have back to waking up. You know? It's the lifeline that we have constantly that will guide us back home. And so with the Course, the Holy Spirit is really a teacher for us, because we can exemplify how the Holy Spirit is with us, how the Holy Spirit loves us, being kind to us, you know, when we're down and out and when we're in really tough places. The Holy Spirit is always inviting us back to love. And so the Holy Spirit is just, we can call it the whisper or the voice, you know, the voice of God. Is that support?
Thank you.
Yeah. Holy Spirit is the bridge, it's a connector from this world and heaven. And so my personal goal is always to learn how this Holy Spirit is with me, how the gentleness is with me. When I pray, the Holy Spirit answers. Right? I can hear the voice of the Holy Spirit. And yeah, it's a great connection. We have to cultivate that, though. That's the purpose of the Course, really, is to cultivate faith, to cultivate our communication with God, because we don't really have it. And the Holy Spirit is the communication. What else? Okay, well, I guess I can update a little bit on my my saga. The things that I've been experiencing through these challenging times of what my wife and I are going through. It's kind of hard to explain, because what we want to do is we want to create this, we want to truly see each other. I think the goal is that we have to let go of this past version of us. And we both are in agreement that, like, the marriage that we had, the way it came about, the shame, the guilt, the judgment, all the things that continues to carry in there, it needs to be burned. Somehow we've created so much animosity in that space that every conversation goes back to an attack, goes back to a defense. And we no longer can even see each other. Not only that we no longer can see each other, we no longer believe that there's even hope that it can turn back around. And so she actually had the courage to finally stand up and be like, that's it. And it's funny because for men, we just think like we just think we are providing, but women need more. You know, women, there's, you know, I really think that, like, women are so much stronger than we are. You know, that you guys are able to, like, go through all the waves of different emotions and still be able to provide the way you guys provide, bring children into the world, be a mom, be a wife, like just so much stuff. And all men are doing is just like, we're going out, we're hunting, we're coming back, we're like, here you go, do something with this, and then we just chill. And so we're not giving the full force of who we are. And so women have to step into, and this is my own perspective, right? It's not the truth of the world, but it just coming from my relationship, and whatever I can learn from it, whatever I can share, I would love to, that's just what I'm doing, what I'm going to do. And women have to step into this masculine role all the time. So many places. And as we mother, we're also in a masculine role sometimes, or women. And so as men, we're like little babies. We're almost, it's almost not our fault that we're emasculated half the times. Right? And we actually don't want a woman that is that masculine. But it's because our masculinity is so messed up. We're like lazy masculines. And so now women have to compete in that space, and the feminine part, that is the goddess, that is the priestess, that is in flow, in intuition. Instead of intuition, it becomes logic, right? It becomes very masculine. There's no flow, no dance in that. And so there's a healing that gets to happen even in our relationship. And we begin to talk about that. And for the first time this past Sunday, we decided that we're going to shut our phones down, not do anything, do a little staycation here just for the day. We did some homework assignments from the Queen's Code, just talking about what does providing mean. And during our marriage, like, I was too lazy to have those conversations. It's like, why are we having this conversation? I wasn't into it. And it really took to where we are now for me to be bought in. Like a different version of myself is here right now. I can see it. And so we had a beautiful experience, beautiful night on Sunday. It's very divine. It's very divine. All aspects of it. And she cried and I cried. And for the first time, we truly, truly saw each other. And the trust was regained. But we still are committed that one little experience cannot, it's too short. We need longer period of time of being separated, of learning who we are. And I'm actually starting to see, and after that Sunday experience of just truly being with each other, there's a wholeness and completeness that I feel, and a level of clarity, because I see how lazy I've been the whole relationship, how like unconscious I was to providing for her. Like, although I am providing financially, my presence was not even there. And so I'm actually really excited for the level of like connection I can bring to everything else in my life. Like, where else was I asleep? Because if I was asleep there, in supposedly the most important part of my life, where else am I truly actually asleep? Am I just doing things on automatic? And it's funny because, these past, maybe since Burning Man last year, like when I started writing that first book, I can't stop writing. And it's just like, I'm like, can I just finish one book? And so I can finish one, but I just keep writing all these different things. I'm literally writing right now a book called The Lazy Lover. So funny. And I'm like, please let me finish my other book first, but it just won't. The others it just stopped. And so, maybe I'll read you a paragraph of what this is. So I wrote, for 3 years, I have been married to an incredible woman. Our relationship has been A relationship has been a journey filled with love, challenges, and profound lessons. This book is a documentation of my awakening, a raw, honest exploration of what it means to be in a relationship, the ways we can falter as partners, and the opportunities we can create extraordinary love. My hope is to offer men and women tools to communicate effectively, motivate each other, and co create a vision that reflects the greatest possibility of their relationship. This book is for men who, like me, have realized that we are losing our partners every day and we don't even know it. We are lazy lovers, providing in ways we don't know that we know how, but failing short in the ways that truly matter. We're little boys with no training, fumbling through relationships without guidance or understanding, and it's time to change. So, yeah. I I just sat there after Sunday and I just wrote like this super, super long thing, and I have no idea where it was going. I was just documenting my journey. Like, I'd never been so, like, it just kept pouring. The words just kept pouring out. And I wrote this super long thing. I don't even know how many pages, a lot of pages. And I stuck it into ChatGPT to create chapters for me. And it created something super amazing. So I'm like, all right, I guess now I have to do this. Right? I have 4 books that I'm writing. I'm like, can I finish one, please? So my goal in 2025 is to finish these 4 books. Go ahead, Brooke. Please shed some light.
I don't think it's necessarily men's fault, really, especially. So, for example, the Hispanic community. The mothers baby the men a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do, and it comes from wanting. And I try to let my kids fail forward, right? Not let them fall off the cliff. But because majority of the men that I have been with have been Hispanic, they all have that same thing. Like, the women take care of everything, so that when you marry them or you live with them prior to marriage, sometimes they don't even know how to do the basics. Like, the darks shouldn't go with the whites. You're ruining our nice towels, our nice sheets, or amor, like when you're washing can you please just rinse out the sink a little bit, get all the gunk, just like little things that men don't always, like, women are taught to take care of everybody. You're doing the laundry, you're cleaning the house. Now, a lot of us are working, and then, especially for running a business, like, I run a couple businesses and I have to be the leader and make all these decisions, but when I come home, I don't want to do that. And I know so many women struggle with that in their relationships, that they take that alpha A leadership role, and then it ruins the home dynamic, where I come home and I'm like, hey, this is a team effort. What are we going to have for dinner? My point to this is that it's not, I don't blame my husband or my ex-husband for their lack of knowledge, because when I look at the mothers, and even the mothers always say, marry a Hispanic woman. Don't marry a white woman or a black woman. And I mean this in the most respectful way possible, but it's because some cultures, the women, regardless if you have a job or not, the men go bring home the bacon, right? You go do this, even if the mom is working. Like, both my mother-in-laws were hard workers, but that did not deter from their responsibilities from home. Cool. We're in a new, world. Women go make money. You can still bring home the bacon, but don't forget about your responsibilities in the real world. And future mothers, I feel, and this is my own perspective, you can shoot it down all you want, is that we're not in the 50s anymore. Women have to also teach their sons the basics, even when they're single men, because then I would go date them, see my ex-husband, even my current husband, he lived before we got married, and it's like when they had their own place, I'm like, yo, this is expired, this is, about 5 months ago, or like, hey, like, you should clean this, or if you don't want to clean because you're busy, go get a house clean, even if it's once a quarter or something. Just some of the basics that a lot of women, when we have our girls' nights or we go out for drinks, it is a common complaint that
Yeah.
so many men don't even know how to do the basics, or they don't offer, like, before you go sit down and play the video game or watch it, because you're a lot like my husband, Alex. Like, my husband, that's his way of relaxation after a hard day of working or doing things. Go beep 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 for a few minutes, right? Or yelling at the 49ers, why are they losing, blah blah blah, talking shit about the Dallas Cowboys. And I know that's his low time. I don't bother them alone. But proactively, like don't assume. But then when they do something, sometimes I feel like men just, I don't know, they just do a bunch of shit together, and I can't get mad. So I'm like, I'm wondering if you try this. Or they don't know how to cook. Or they don't cook. They know how to make two things: sloppy joes and chicken pesto pasta. That's my husband. I love him. I adore him. He's my soulmate. But I'm like, damn. Then the mom looks at me like, why are you making gallo pinto? Ahora que por bolas. I'm like, I know how to cook, homie, but I shouldn't be doing all the cooking. This is a 50-50. So my long ass explanation, I can't. The women can't always blame the men. You do need to look at the mothers. You do have to look at the cultures. You do need to look at the upbringing, and know that we're in this together. And then now for me, I told my husband, hey babe, let's cook this together. Let's do this together. I'm like, can you do this? Can you do this? And then I'm like, oh, you look good in an apron. Don't you look hot? Nothing sexier than a man in the kitchen. You know, men want to be, and I hope my point lands. Like, I know I listen to you, and I'm hearing everything that you're saying, because it is something that me and my husband have had. I've known my husband since college for over 20 years, right? And it is some part of your upbringing, but it's also part of women, our fault. We don't always communicate clearly either. We think men are mind readers, right? And they're not. And we as women, because we want to be independent, and I know I can do everything. I've done everything. I was a single mom for a few years. I know what I'm capable of. But I have a husband. You see me bringing in groceries. You see me running around like if you with my head cut off. Hey, amor, you need some help? Why do I gotta stop to say, hello, you see me doing this? Can you come over here and help? No, be a servant, right? You see there's laundry that needs to be put away. You see there's dishes in the sink. Why are you waiting for me to do it? So it's shit like that, but it is cultural. We do have to be like, hey, babe, put on some salsa music. We'll bump some music in our house. And, hey, can you come help me out with this? But when I do ask, he always, yeah, sure, babe. But I have to ask. We're just different, right? And I hear this across all men and women. So I do try to give men grace, and my husband and the men in my life, my father and everybody else, as much as possible, because we are a result of our environment. But us as our women, because we love our men lovingly without nagging and being bitches, when they're watching the game, leave them the hell alone. You should have effing got their attention prior to them sitting down, okay? Two, when they're playing video games, that's their time to decompress. Just like women have our own time to decompress. Leave them the F alone. You missed your window. Keep it moving and figure it out later, right? And just know this is somebody you love. Know who you're talking to. And too often when I go to my friend's house, I see them nagging and bitching. I was like, you know that's your husband. That's supposed to be somebody you love. Wait, let me leave, turn on some music and make it fun and do shit together without nagging. But I'll get off my high horse. I just totally relate to what you're saying. And me and my husband, time and time again, have had to have heart-to-heart talks. You know, and we have to remember that it's not really your guys' fault, but you have to want to participate in marriage, right? And no long term, right?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. You know, and love you so much. And, you know, like men would love to hear this, right? This part of it too. And like too often is the settling just happening, right? Like, oh, this is the way it is. And then over a long period of time, that resentment builds up. Just like the Course says, like, we can tolerate pain for a while. I'm going to tolerate my wife's shit. I'm going to tolerate my husband's shit for a while until I don't, right? And then it's like, and then both sides are like, wait, where did that just come from? You know, and it's this like agitation that just builds up little by little by little. So the effort, what I'm talking about is the effort that gets to be put in on both parties. You know, knowing that it's not that we have the rest of our lives. Like, we don't have infinite amount of time. If we don't have infinite amount of time, like, how do we truly pour our love into each other so that, you know, we both get to be seen? You know, we both get to be heard, because that is the biggest problem is, you know, women don't feel heard or seen. Like, how many times I have to repeat the same thing? And then men are like, well, my complaint, how come I'm not being heard, right? So we just go back and forth in these things. And I think it's not about anyone's fault. It's about, we have a programming from our upbringing and from our culture and whatever. But that does not need to dictate us. See, the awakened version of us is not dictated by the past, by the culture, by anything. In this moment, I am choosing to participate in the cooking. I am choosing to participate, not like an obligation, because men sometimes think like it's an obligation. I have to sacrifice my video game time so that I can come and cook with you, right? And that creates a small resentment. Small little things just build up, and it's like, well, you gotta want to be here, like you said, Brooke. So yeah, I think it's really powerful. This conversation, we can go back and forth forever, but there is a version in which both feels completely seen and safe, and and it's not the ego battling back and forth. So we can use the course to reflect on what is the lessons in each moment, what has been, where am I throwing away my peace, right? Where do I want to create conflict? Just being present to those things, and men to recognize what's the awakened version of us, and then women to do the same, right? Knowing that the way that we behave will also like dictate how they're gonna behave in the future with their future partners. I'm talking about kids, So yeah. Alma?
Yes, I'm not an expert on I'm not an expert on men-women relationships. But in any case, it just reminds me and to think that the whole system, the governing system, is run by men. No, please, you can't even manage your own household situation. How can you handle the whole country situation? That's what reminds me of this conversation. That is so messed up.
It is so interesting.
How can you make laws and everything? You don't even know how to behave within the marriage. So I think the couples needs to have more dating time together, more engagement period together, to really know each other, and then get the wedding ring. So I think it's too fast. You're moving too fast. These are growing pains. And whoops, I made a mistake. Oops, I'm growing up, but this other person is in my life. Uh-oh. What do I do with this other person in my life? Uh-oh. So I think it's just, we need more time. Continue dating, love each other, but to live under the same roof and to have the marriage thing, it takes time.
Yes, and yes, and that's a perspective. So this is great. This is a great example of how we live in this world, right? And what the course is trying to teach us is what you shared right there. We all must know, and you included must know, that that is a perspective. It's not the truth, right? It's your truth, which is what the course says is the beginning of the law of chaos. Chaos begins with, I believe that my perspective is the truth. And I can find evidence. See, I can find evidence in the world why that's the truth. But I guarantee somebody else can find evidence why it's not the truth also. Right? So then that's the chaos. Chaos happens in that battle. And it's really, and I'm only using this example, not like I'm challenging it or anything, but just to recognize that, because we have all the other things just like that. The government should be this. People should do this. My wife should do this. My mom should be like this. We all have that like it's the truth, but to recognize the difference between illusions and what is real is the purpose of the course. And then choose, right? Because illusions will create conflict, eternity and truth does not. And truth requires no defense.
I'm replacing the word not should. That ideally, Is that better? Ideally, it would work better this way. No?
It's still a perspective, right? Ideally, not ideally, like I don't know.
Right.
We have no idea if that's true because you can that applies for some people and that doesn't apply for some people, right? Like we can find evidence in the world that both make sense.
All
So
right. So
it's like it's to recognize that my don't connect my illusions, my perspective to the truth because that confusion will have us create more conflict in our lives. Period. Because we're actually confused about what is true and what is just my perspective. And if I made the perspective, I value the perspective, and now I must come to the defense of it.
so I guess we just have to be silent.
It's not about being silent. It's about using that. Like even what's the point? What's the purpose? Right? Why did I say this? Right? And it's not serious. There is no judgment, no attack on anything that you're saying. It's literally a great use for all of us because throughout the day we will have this. What you're sharing right now is I want to use a great example so for all of us throughout the rest of the day can recognize when we do that. How do we create conflict in our relationships? Is when we take a perspective and we make it the truth and then we defend against it. Right? And then we get uncomfortable when somebody challenges it and but how do we return that back to peace? Right? It's like I don't the course is always telling us we don't really know anything. And we can be kind to ourselves because we didn't know any better. Jesus was able to say, have compassion for my brothers and sisters because they know not what they do. So we cannot punish them because they don't know what they do. And at no time, any time that we are judging or attacking, we actually don't know what we're doing. We're not seeing things for as they are. That's why we feel the need to defend or attack. And so what's the solution? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
But honestly, I mean, I don't know how to say it, but we need it. The sensitivity of the female needs to be more acceptable, more worldwide. It's like it needs to be respected. And come on, give us a chance to voice and it's just I don't know how else to explain it.
Well, I'm
It's
I'm for that. I do believe like I want to see a woman president actually. I do believe that because this is what men gets to do. Men gets to worship and see truly the power of women as they are in their intuition and their power. But women also get to honor in order for them to even receive it. The simple thing, men are so easy. A couple acknowledgments. Good job, good boy. That's all we need. To truly be seen in that way. Like acknowledgments go a long way. We are so simple, I think. We're definitely simpler than women, I think. But yeah, that's it. We just need a little bit of acknowledgement when we do the right things. And so the honoring gets to happen both sides, right? It's not like one is greater than the other, but in the communion of it, in the coming together, it's beautiful because we both actually have masculine and feminine traits inside all of us. Because you can have a woman that is completely disconnected from the feminine step into power and act just like the man and be just like that. Because just completely in this masculine world. So yeah, I do, but I'm with you. I think women should be in charge of everything. I'm like, I don't even know how to order my own food. How can I be in charge of anything? Morgan.
Hello, good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning.
This conversation is great. I want to share like every man I've ever spoken to, every successful man, books I've read, podcasts I've heard, person I've spoken with or know, they will happily admit that there is a woman behind them that is really running the scene, that's making sure everything gets done and happens, because the women are often behind the scenes making sure all the things get done, um, because it's just the way that our brains are built, the way that our bodies are built. We're designed to do things differently. Women are more designed to focus on multiple things at one time and get these things done, and men are designed to do one thing at a time. Right? They're designed to go out, hunt food. Okay, I hunted food, I bring food home, right? Like, I'm designed to do this one thing at a time because my life is in danger if I'm out there hunting food against these wild animals with a spear. Like, I'm not designed to also be looking at the children and hunting and gathering. That's just not the way that they were designed. But on that same note, gratitude on both ways goes so far. So just expressing to your spouse gratitude, or your coworkers. I mean, this is not just like a marriage. Gratitude goes so far. Showing a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of appreciation, instead of like, oh, you loaded the dishwasher wrong. Like, oh, let's suck up the fit. It's like, oh, thank you so much for loading the dishwasher. You press start. You don't worry about it. Who cares that it took 3 loads? You just say thank you. Thank you that you put the dishes away. Who cares when I open the cabinet? All that shit falls out. It's fine. Thank you so much for putting it away. I so appreciate your effort, because now you're showing them like, okay, I appreciate what it is that you did do, and not, oh, you did this and it still wasn't right. Because you're a bitch, honestly. Like, and it goes both ways, right? For the guy to say, oh, thank you for taking care of literally everything. Thank you for taking care of me and doing all this stuff. That appreciation goes so far. But even though it doesn't look like women run the world, in my humble opinion, we do.
True that. Love it. Mic drop.
How
Brooke.
are you, Morgan? I'm curious. You're all bundled up.
I'm under the weather, and I'm in Texas, and we don't know how to handle a cold. So it's not even cold outside. I'm
Oh my
freezing my
God.
tail off right now.
Ain't that the truth, girl? I moved
It
from
looks like
Texas from California, and y'all act like the world is shutting down. I am going crazy. We think it's COVID all over
Yeah, they don't
again.
know how to handle it. It's like
No, they
30
don't.
degrees outside. We're like, oh my god. Yeah.
I know, they're literally shutting everything down. Like, you went to HEB, the grocery store, just to get some. It was absolute shit show chaos, eggs smashed. I'm like, yo, why doesn't the state of Texas get some snow flowers? Get the snow out. It's supposed to snow as it's 9 to 12 inches. Salt the streets, all like a normal freaking state does, but I guess there's no budget because we rarely get this. Hello, you're gonna reserve for like national disasters and shit. You're literally shutting the state down for like the next 2 days. It's insanity, but whatever. I digress.
That's why we need women behind the scenes running the show, Brooke. Like,
Bro, I'm like, what is wrong? And I'm trying not to judge, but I'm like, what the hell is wrong with that? We go to Tahoe, you put on some freaking canes, salt the road, snow flowers, and you move on with your life. Not here, but whatever. I'm just barely living here.
In Texas, you get like maybe one day of snow a year, especially like in South Texas. If you get that, and then it's like, oh my god, no, like thank you for blessing us with some light snow. And so even like when it's just cold, 30 degrees, we're all like, our pipes are gonna burst. We're not made for this.
So you are in
Crazy,
Texas?
but-
Is that where you are, Morgan?
I'm in Texas. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
in
okay.
Texas.
All right. Enjoy. All right.
Well, I wanted to add to what Morgan said, and because this was something that I was speaking with some girlfriends a couple weeks ago, how Morgan's like, oh, well, thank you, babe, for doing this and this and that. And this is one thing, another thing that women get so frustrated with is like, this is our roles and responsibilities. Like, I understand, like, showing up, like, oh, hey, babe, thank you, but I'm trying to, like, reach for something, like, oh, thanks, babe, da, da, da. But for doing the dishes, I mean, we'll say, oh, thanks for dinner, babe, and shit like that, but normal day-to-day stuff, oh, thanks for pulling a laundry. You don't thank me for anything, and I know that sounds like shit, but it's like, why are we gonna thank you for something that we do 24/7 constantly, and we barely get a glimpse our way, or a slot on the ass, or a hug to say thank you for that? One. Two, another thing that women struggle with is the unseen emotional baggage of, when I do have to confront my husband on something, or any man for that matter, I have to put on my baby gloves, because men are usually a little bit more sensitive, and I have to, like, I don't want you to get angry. I was like, hey, amor, or like, hey, are you able to do X, Y, Z? I know we were, like mowing the lawn. Hey, do you mind? It looks like it's getting like a jungle out there. And if you say it the wrong way, when I'm like, we literally know, look outside, like it's a fuckery out there. Like, how do you not know there's like a jungle? Like, and I'm like, hey, amor, so what do you think would be? Oh, yeah, I'll get it done. A week passes, nothing. 2 weeks pass, nothing. Oh, hey, baby, why are you on my ass? Whoa, slow your roll, bro. We mentioned this like 2 weeks ago. And that's another thing that a lot of me and my girlfriends talk about. Is like, man, when a man comes, he's like, hey, is this done yet? Did you get this done? There's no baby ass gloves on there. But when we come to a man, it's like, hey, babe, are you able to get this done? Did you know? Bruh. And then I walk around, wait, and I'm like rolling my eyes, like, what the fuck? Like, this is something we've been talking about for 2 weeks. But I have to, like, get your mind right. And that goes to say, both men and women are very different, and we just have to love each other and your partner enough to know that everybody has baggage, and that we're kind of in this together. And that's why sometimes, if I'm really in a shitty ass mood and I've asked him something very politely, now it's like the third time, I kind of put my hand on his leg or something, like, babe, lawn, or something, like, you just get to know who you're talking to. And I think that's what we have to remember, is the person you're talking to is your lifelong partner. If it's somebody, and I know this is going to sound shitty, and I'm sure it's not very godly, but who I am depends on who you are. There are some people that I'm just kind of like, whatever, I walk away, or if you are very disrespectful to me, I might be a little snappy right back at you. But if you're my husband or my kids, or somebody I value as a relationship, then I am going to walk away. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to speak more with love. So, yeah.
Well, I love, the perspectives that's been shared. I think this conversation, I mean, we can go back and forth talking about this all day, right? And here is us going back to our chapter 11, the invitation to healing. All the conversations that we're having, we all have these types of experiences in our relationships. We all can relate to what Brooke is talking about. And men can get defensive to what she's talking about, even the way she said it's so loving and so kind and all of that too, right? Because if we because if we have hurt parts of ourselves, any conversation can trigger that. And so, both of what you and Morgan said have been so powerful on that side. And you can see how resentment can be built up, right? Like on both sides. And it just sounds like men are a little more sensitive. Well, probably a lot more, because, yeah, that was the feedback that I was getting too. It's like when she wants to come and talk to me, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Like, I'm almost like tired of, and it's like, it doesn't even happen that often, right? So, yeah, I think sometimes we have to also just step into our own power and to guide and lead each other. Right? Sometimes the man needs to be reminded, and then sometimes the women. But it's just we have to have a path. The Course says it's us two coming together to remember God. If we're just going to nitpick back and forth, at some point the war is going to get too out of control, and we won't be able to come back. So there's lots of tools, lots of things to support relationships. A lot of people out there that are relationship coaches and experts. And, I encourage people to start looking more into that sooner than later. If you feel resentment in your relationship, it's important to communicate some of these things before it gets out of hand. So my perspective, obviously. And we're going to read right now this section 2 of chapter 11, super short. And, all the conversation we had up to this point, let's see what the Course has to add to all of this, right? Reminding us back to, it's not about sides. It's not about winning. It's not about losing. It's not about being right. It's not about being wrong. It's about uniting our minds, bringing unification to our mind. Otherwise, anytime there is separation, we will create conflict. So Okay, so chapter 11, section 2, the invitation to healing. If sickness is separation, the decision to heal and to be healed is the first step towards recognizing what you truly want. Every attack is a step away from this, and every healing thought brings it closer. The Son of God has both Father and Son, because he is both Father and Son. To unite having and being is to unite your will and his. For he wills you himself. And you will yourself to him, because in your perfect understanding of him, you know there is but one will. Yet when you attack any part of God and his kingdom, your understanding is not perfect, and what you really want is therefore lost to you. Healing thus becomes a lesson in understanding, and the more you practice it, the better teacher and learner you become. If you deny truth, what better witness to its reality could you have than those who have been healed by it? But be sure to count yourself among them, for in every willingness to join them is your healing accomplished. Every miracle that you accomplish speaks to you of the fatherhood of God. Every healing thought that you accept, either from your brother or in your own mind, teaches you that you're God's son. And every hurtful thought you hold, wherever you perceive it, lies the denial of God's fatherhood and your sonship. So this is about remembering and forgetting, and when we are one with each other, when we understand that our wills are the same, what we want is the same thing. It could be in our relationships, right? We go back to the husband and wife in your relationship. To unite under one will is to remember God. And denial is as total as love. You cannot deny part of yourself because the rest will seem to be separate and therefore without meaning. And being without meaning to you, you will not understand it. To deny meaning is to fail to understand. You can heal only yourself, for only God's Son needs healing. You need it because you do not understand yourself, and therefore do not know what to do. Having forgotten your will, you do not know what you really want. This is what the Course says, like every moment, if you don't know what you really want, you think it's to have your wife do something, or to get an acknowledgement, or you want your husband to go and mow the lawn. You think that's what you really want. Healing is a sign that you want to make whole, and this willingness opens your ears to the voice of the Holy Spirit, whose message is wholeness. He will enable you to go far beyond the healing you would undertake, for besides your small willingness to make whole, he will lay his own complete will and make yours whole. What can the Son of God not accomplish with the fatherhood of God in him? And yet the invitation must come from you, for you must surely learn that whom you invite as your guest will abide with you. So are you inviting separation in by denying the Holy Spirit, denying oneness, or are you inviting the Holy Spirit in and denying separation? The Holy Spirit cannot speak to an unwelcome host because he will not be heard. So if you don't welcome the Holy Spirit, and this is what the Course says, that you bring, Holy Spirit comes to you from invitation, not in time, but in invitation. The eternal guest remains, but his voice grows faint in alien company. He needs your protection only because your care is a sign that you want him. Think like him ever so slightly, and the little spark becomes a blazing light that fills your mind so that he becomes your own guest. Whenever you ask the ego to enter, you lessen his welcome. He will remain with you, but you have allied yourself against him. Whatever journey you choose to take, he will go with you waiting. You can safely trust his patience, for he cannot leave a part of God. Yet you need far more than patience. You will never rest until you know your function and fulfill it, for only in this can your will and the Father's be wholly joined. To have him is to be like him, and he has given himself to you. You who have God must be as God, for his function became yours with his gift. Invite this knowledge back into your mind, and let nothing that obscures it enter. The guest whom God sent you will teach you how to do this, if you but recognize the little spark and are willing to let it grow. Your willingness need not be perfect, because he is. If you merely offer him a little place, he will lighten it so much that you will gladly let it be increased. And by this increase, you will begin to remember creation. Would you be hostage to the ego or host to God? You will accept only whom you invite. You are free to determine who shall be your guest, but how long he shall remain with you, and how long he shall remain with you. Yet this is not real freedom, for it still depends on how you see it. The Holy Spirit is there, although he cannot help you without your invitation. And the ego is nothing, whether you invite it in or not. Real freedom depends on welcoming reality, and of your guests, only the Holy Spirit is real. Know then who abides with you merely by recognizing what is there already, and do not be satisfied with imaginary comforts, for the Creator of God is in you. Thanks, Connor. All right, well, that kind of completes our day, our thoughts here. Thank you guys for the conversation, for what you guys shared. I love hearing the perspectives all the time of, relationships. Those are always really, really great. And yeah, I feel pretty complete today. Sending love out to everyone, all the relationships out there, and to myself as I navigate through these times of, what I'm going through. Yep. So much love to everybody. Any last thoughts, comments, questions?
Thank you, Alex.
In a safe space.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for sharing your emotions.
Hmm.
And welcome to the adult world.
All right. Cool.
Be
Thanks,
safe.
man.
Love you. Love
All right. Love you guys. Bye, everybody.
Bye.